Crash landing. The planet Nexuria's dual suns cast an eerie purple glow across the crystalline landscape as Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen's escape pod punched through the dense atmosphere. Warning lights flickered across the control panel, which sparked and sizzled under her desperate attempts to stabilize the craft. Come on, she muttered, fingers dancing across the heat-damaged interface. The pod's exterior temperature gauge had long since maxed out, and the structural integrity warning screamed in her ears. Maya had survived worse. The destruction of her research vessel by pirates in the Arcturus sector, a 2-week trek across the radiation deserts of Kepler 186f. But something about Nexuria's atmosphere was different. The gravitational readings were off the charts. When the pod finally crashed, it wasn't the gentle, controlled landing Maya had hoped for, but a brutal collision that sent her strapped body slamming against the restraints. Pain exploded across her chest as the impact knocked the air from her lungs. For several moments, she hung limp, fighting for consciousness as emergency systems deployed oxygen-rich foam that hardened around her, preventing further injury. By the time Maya cut herself free from the hardened foam with her survival knife, nearly an hour had passed. She pushed open the manual release for the pod's hatch and was immediately assaulted by the crushing weight of Nexuria's atmosphere. According to her readings, the gravity here was 2.3 times that of Earth, enough to make even breathing a conscious effort. Fantastic, she muttered, forcing herself to her feet. Her augmented exoskeleton uniform, standard issue for deep space explorers, compensated somewhat for the increased gravity. But even with its assistance, Maya felt like she was moving underwater with weights strapped to her limbs. Each step required deliberate concentration. The landscape around her was unlike anything she'd seen before. Towering crystal formations jutted from the ground like massive transparent stalagmites, reflecting and refracting the purple sunlight. Vegetation existed, but it was low to the ground, spreading in thick mats of deep blue and amber that pulsated rhythmically as if breathing. In the distance, massive floating islands hung suspended in the air, defying the planet's brutal gravity through some mechanism Maya couldn't fathom. She had taken less than 10 steps from her pod when she sensed movement behind her. Maya turned, painfully slow in the crushing gravity, to find herself facing a tall, slender being with translucent skin that seemed to shift colors like an octopus. The creature's body was elongated, its 4 arms ending in manipulators with 7 digits each. Most striking were its eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle on its face, glowing with an inner phosphorescence. The alien regarded Maya with what could only be described as amused contempt. It carried a long crystalline spear that had spun casually between its fingers with effortless grace despite the punishing gravity. "You should lie back down and wait for death, soft one," the alien said, its voice melodic but harsh, somehow transmitted directly into Maya's mind. "Your kind never lasts more than a few hours on Nexuria. Your bones will snap like seedlings in a storm." Maya straightened her back, ignoring the protest of her muscles. "I appreciate your concern, but I've survived worse." The alien made a sound like wind chimes, a laugh. Maya realized. "I am Silendrix of the Crystal Spire clan. I have watched 17 different species try to establish themselves on our world. All have failed. Your body is already breaking under our sky's weight." Maya took another deliberate step forward. "Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen, Earth Alliance. I don't plan on establishing anything. Just waiting for rescue." "No rescue will come to this region," Silendrix replied. "The crystalline storms interfere with most communication signals, and even if they could hear you," the alien gestured to the purple sky, "few ships can withstand entry to our atmosphere." Maya's response was cut short by a low, rumbling sound that seemed to emanate from everywhere at once. The ground beneath her feet began to tremble. Silendrix's casual demeanor vanished instantly, replaced by alert tension. "Ground split," the alien hissed. "Move." Before Maya could process what was happening, the earth between her and her escape pod began to crack, a fissure opening that rapidly widened into a chasm. She leaped backward just as the ground where she had been standing collapsed into a yawning darkness below. "Run!" Silandrix shouted, already moving with surprising speed toward a cluster of larger crystal formations. "The predators will come." As if on cue, something massive erupted from the newly formed chasm, a creature Maya's mind could only process as a cross between a tiger and a mantis. Its body was covered in iridescent scales that shifted colors with its movement. 6 powerful limbs, ending in scythe-like claws that dug into the ground as it pulled itself fully from the fissure. A row of crystalline spines ran down its back, and its head featured multiple compound eyes that swiveled independently, scanning for prey. It spotted Maya immediately, nostrils flaring as it detected her unfamiliar scent. With a screech that sounded like tearing metal, it charged. "Your death comes, soft one," Silandrix called from safety. The next crystal tiger has never failed to catch its prey. Maya didn't waste breath responding. Instead, she assessed her options with the rapid calculation that had kept her alive through a dozen dangerous missions. The creature was fast, but its mass worked against it in the high gravity. It couldn't change direction quickly. She waited until the last possible moment, then threw herself sideways with all her strength. The next crystal tiger overshot, its momentum carrying it past her, claws gouging deep furrows in the ground as it tried to stop. Maya scrambled to her feet, her muscles screaming under the gravity's pull. The creature was already turning for another charge when a smaller figure darted from the crystal formations. A child of Silandrix's species, no taller than Maya's waist, its translucent skin pulsing with fear patterns. "Silandrix," the child called. "Help." The next crystal tiger's attention immediately shifted to this new, smaller prey. It changed course mid-stride, bearing down on the child with single-minded intent. Silandrix was too far away, already running but moving at a speed that would never intercept the predator in time. Maya didn't think, she acted. Pushing against the crushing gravity, she sprinted directly toward the collision course, her exoskeleton uniform whining with the strain. As the next crystal tiger gathered itself to pounce on the frozen child, Maya reached them both. In a move that defied the planet's punishing gravity, she seized one of the creature's front limbs as it rose. The tiger's momentum and mass should have torn her arm from its socket, but Maya's years of specialized training in variable gravity environments had prepared her body for this moment. With a roar that surprised even herself, she pivoted and used the creature's own momentum to redirect it, actually lifting the massive predator partially off the ground and throwing it sideways. The next crystal tiger tumbled, its crystalline spines shattering against the hard ground. It scrambled to its feet, disoriented and injured, compound eyes focusing on Maya with newfound wariness. For a tense moment, predator and human stared at each other across the alien landscape. Then, with a final hiss, the creature retreated, disappearing back into the chasm from which it had emerged. Silence fell across the crystalline plain. Maya turned to find Silandrix standing frozen, all 3 eyes wide with disbelief. The child had run to the alien's side, clutching at one of Silandrix's 4 arms, while staring at Maya with undisguised awe. "Impossible," Silandrix whispered, the telepathic voice in Maya's mind tinged with shock. "No outsider has ever bested a next crystal tiger. How did your fragile bones not shatter?" Maya flexed her hand, feeling the strain in her muscles, but no real damage. "Human bones aren't as fragile as they look, and I've trained in extreme gravity environments." "You lifted a next crystal tiger," the child said, its mental voice higher pitched than Silandrix. "Are you a god?" Maya couldn't help but smile despite the pain radiating through her body. "No, just well prepared." Silandrix approached cautiously, studying Maya with new interest. Perhaps you might survive Nexoria after all." Maya Chen of Earth Alliance. "I intend to," Maya replied, straightening to her full height despite the crushing pressure trying to drive her to her knees. "Now, about that rescue." The journey. The twin suns of Nexoria began their slow descent toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the crystalline landscape and turning the sky a deep violet. Maya followed Silendrix and the child, whom she now knew was called Lyrics, as they made their way across the treacherous terrain toward what Silendrix called the Central Spire, a massive crystal formation that housed their clan's settlement. "The communication arrays are there," Silendrix explained, gesturing with one of their 4 arms toward a distant shimmering structure that seemed to pierce the sky. "If there is any hope of contacting your people, it will be from the spire." Each step was a battle against the crushing gravity. Maya's exoskeleton uniform provided some assistance, distributing the weight across her body more evenly. But even with its help, she felt like she was carrying 3 times her body weight. Sweat drenched her skin despite the planet's moderate temperature, her muscles burning with the constant effort. "You move well for a soft one," Silendrix observed, their color shifting to a curious blue tone. "Most visitors can barely stand by this point." "Most visitors probably don't have combat exo training," Maya replied between controlled breaths, "or genetic modifications for high-gravity environments." This caught Silendrix's attention. "You alter your own form." "Some of us," Maya explained. "When you explore as many different worlds as humans do, a little adaptation helps. Denser bone structure, enhanced muscle fiber, reinforced cardiovascular system. Standard package for deep space explorers." Lyrics, who had been silently listening, suddenly spoke up. "Does it hurt to change yourself?" Maya smiled at the child. "No more than growing does. You're changing all the time too, just more slowly." They crested a rise and found themselves facing a vast plain covered in the pulsating blue-amber vegetation Maya had noticed earlier. The plants created a dense carpet stretching toward the horizon, broken only by occasional crystal outcroppings. "We must cross," Silendrix stated, color patterns shifting to what Maya was beginning to recognize as concern. "The resonance fields are dangerous, but less so than the mountain pass." "Resonance fields?" Maya asked. "The plants," Lyrics explained excitedly. "They sing to each other beneath the ground. Sometimes they sing too loudly, and," as if on cue, a distant patch of vegetation suddenly convulsed, the pulsating rhythm accelerating until the entire area seemed to vibrate. With a sound like shattering glass, the crystal outcropping in the middle of that patch exploded, sending crystalline shards flying in all directions. "That happens," the child finished. "Wonderful," Maya muttered. Silendrix produced 3 pairs of what looked like thin crystalline snowshoes from a pack. "These will distribute your weight. Step lightly and follow my exact path." The crossing was tense, each step carefully placed on vegetation that seemed to sense their presence, the pulsations changing rhythm as they passed. Twice, Silendrix froze, raising all 4 arms in a signal to stop as distant patches of plants began their deadly acceleration. Each time, after the resulting crystal explosion, they would resume their careful progress. They were nearly 3/4 across when Lyrics slipped, one foot sliding off the crystalline snowshoe and plunging directly into the vegetation. The response was immediate. The plants around them began to pulse rapidly, the vibrations growing stronger with each cycle. "Run!" Silendrix shouted, scooping Lyrics into 2 of their arms and sprinting forward. Maya followed, abandoning caution for speed, her muscles screaming against Nexuria's punishing gravity. The crystal outcropping beside them began to resonate, a high-pitched whine that grew in intensity with each passing second. Cracks appeared along its surface, spreading like lightning through its structure. Maya pushed herself harder, drawing on reserves of strength she hadn't known she possessed. The explosion, when it came, was deafening. Crystal shards erupted in all directions, most flying over their heads as they ran, but one massive fragment arced directly toward them. Maya saw it coming, saw that it would intersect perfectly with Silendrix and Lyrics, who were running ahead of her. Again acting on instinct rather than thought, Maya launched herself forward, tackling both aliens to the ground just as the massive shard whistled overhead. The impact with the ground sent pain lancing through her body, but she'd managed to shield the aliens with her own form. "Maya," Lyrics cried, scrambling from beneath her. "Are you hurt?" Maya rolled to her side, checking herself for injuries. Beyond bruises and minor cuts from smaller crystal fragments, she seemed intact. "I'm good," she gasped, the effort of speaking under the crushing gravity almost too much after the exertion of their sprint. Silandrix helped her up, two hands supporting her while the other two steadied Lyrics. The alien's skin had taken on a pattern Maya hadn't seen before, ripples of golden light against the translucent background. "You moved very quickly," Silandrix observed, "faster than any of my kind could in an emergency." Maya managed a pained smile. "Adrenaline. Human bodies produce it when we're in danger. Temporary strength boost." "Fascinating," Silandrix replied, the golden ripples intensifying. "Your species is full of surprises." They reached the end of the resonance field without further incident, and Maya collapsed onto solid ground, her muscles trembling with exhaustion. Silandrix offered her a container of shimmering liquid. "Drink. It will help restore your strength." Maya hesitated only briefly before accepting. The liquid tasted like honey and electricity, and almost immediately she felt energy flowing back into her limbs. "What is this stuff?" she asked, examining the iridescent container. "Crystal nectar. Our sustenance," Lyrics explained proudly. "Only the bravest hunters can extract it from the singing hives." As they rested, Silandrix told Maya more about Nexuria, how the crystalline structures were actually living organisms that grew over centuries, how the planet's intense gravity had shaped all life here to be either incredibly strong or incredibly clever, and how their clan had learned to harness the natural resonance of the crystals for everything from communication to defense. "And these enemies you mentioned, the ones you're worried about?" Maya asked. Silandrix's colors darkened. "The Shadow Walkers. They came to our world as you did, in metal vessels that fell from the sky. Unlike you, they found ways to survive, to adapt. They learned to manipulate the crystals, to bend them to their purpose. They want the central spire," Lyrics added, voice small. "They attacked 3 settlements already." "Why haven't you asked for help?" Maya questioned. "The Earth Alliance has protocols for situations like this. Nexuria exists outside your alliance's mapped territories," Silandrix replied. "And the few outsiders who have survived here long enough to learn of our plight have had other priorities." Maya was about to respond when a deep rumbling shook the ground. Unlike the tremors that had preceded the next crystal tiger's appearance, this vibration had a pattern to it. Regular, mechanical. "Shadow Walkers," Silandrix hissed, skin turning a dark, mottled purple. "They're early. We must reach the spire before they do." They crested another rise, and Maya saw the central spire in its full glory, a massive crystalline structure that seemed to capture and amplify the light of the setting suns, sending rainbow patterns dancing across the landscape. At its base, smaller crystal formations had been shaped into dwellings, their surfaces carved with intricate patterns that Maya guessed served both decorative and functional purposes. And approaching from the opposite direction, a line of dark shapes moved with mechanical precision across the terrain. Angular vehicles that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, leaving trails of dead vegetation in their wake. "Will we make it?" Maya asked, calculating distances and speeds. Silandrix's colors shifted again. Resignation. "Not before they reach the outer settlements. There will be fighting." Maya studied the approaching force, then looked back at the magnificent crystal city. Here she was, stranded on an alien world with crushing gravity, facing an unknown enemy force, and somehow it felt like exactly where she needed to be. "Then we'd better come up with a plan," she said, "because I'm not letting them take your home." The surprise in Silandrix's 3 eyes was evident. "This is not your fight, Maya Chen of Earth." Maya straightened, ignoring the protest of her gravity-strained muscles. "I make it my fight. Now tell me everything you know about these Shadow Walkers." As the suns dipped below the horizon, casting the crystal spire in twilight hues, Silendrix began to explain. And for the first time since meeting the human, the alien skin glowed with something that looked remarkably like hope. The final stand. The central spire glittered in the light of Nexaria's 3 moons, thousands of facets reflecting and amplifying the pale illumination until the entire settlement seemed to glow from within. Under different circumstances, Maya would have found the sight breathtaking. Now she saw only a target, vulnerable, exposed, beautiful in its crystalline transparency. "Your defenses?" she asked Silendrix as they hurried through the outer settlements, residents staring at the human with mixtures of curiosity and fear. "Resonance barriers," the alien replied, leading her toward a central chamber within the largest formation. "The crystals can be attuned to shatter anything approaching at high velocity, but the shadow walkers have found frequencies that disrupt the attunement." Inside the chamber, dozens of Silendrix's kind gathered around a large crystalline table that projected a 3-dimensional map of the surrounding territory. The approaching shadow walker forces appeared as dark blots, steadily advancing from multiple directions. An older alien, their translucent skin etched with what appeared to be ceremonial scarring, approached. "Silendrix, you bring an outsider to the War Council." "Elder Tyvix, this is Maya Chen of Earth Alliance," Silendrix responded with formal tones. "She has demonstrated exceptional abilities that may aid our defense." The elder studied Maya with all 3 eyes, their gaze penetrating. "Can you withstand our gravity indefinitely, Earth human?" Maya straightened despite the constant strain. "Long enough to help." She defeated a Nex crystal tiger. Lyrix piped up from behind. "Silendrix, and saved us from the resonance explosion." Murmurs spread through the gathered aliens. Even Elder Tyvix's skin rippled with surprise patterns. "We need all the help we can get," another alien added, stepping forward. This one's skin was darker, patterned with what looked like tactical markings. "The Shadow Walkers have brought resonance disruptors. Our barriers won't hold." Maya approached the crystalline table, studying the map. "Tell me about these Shadow Walkers. What are they? What do they want?" "They came as explorers," Elder Tyvix explained, colors shifting to a somber blue. "A species from a low-gravity world who could barely stand under our sky. We offered them shelter, shared our knowledge of the crystals. They discovered that our crystal cores can power their technologies beyond anything they'd achieved before. So they came back stronger," Maya finished, recognizing the pattern. She'd seen it on too many worlds. First contact leading to exploitation. Mechanically augmented, the warrior alien confirmed. Exosuits that let them move freely in our gravity. Weapons that disrupt our resonance defenses. Maya circled the table, analyzing the approaching forces. Her tactical training identified choke points, potential ambush locations, defensive positions. "Their formation has a weakness," she said, pointing to the map. "They're advancing in tight groups, probably to maintain their resonance disruption field." "We've noticed," the warrior replied. "But we cannot approach them without losing our own crystalline weapons. The disruptors affect anything with a resonance pattern." A smile slowly spread across Maya's face. "But I don't use resonance weapons." She turned to Silendrix. "Do you have anything heavy but non-crystalline? Metal, dense stone, anything that won't be affected by these disruption fields?" Silendrix consulted with the others briefly before responding. "The meteor stones from the western field. They resist all resonance." "Show me," Maya said. Under the light of the 3 moons, a plan took shape. The Crystal Spire clan moved with purpose, gathering the dense, non-crystalline meteor stones from a nearby impact crater. Meanwhile, Maya worked with Silendrix and several skilled crafters to fashion crude but effective weapons, slings, simple catapults, and weighted nets. "The Shadow Walkers expect you to fight with resonance technology because that's all you've ever known," Maya explained as they worked. "But sometimes the oldest weapons are the most effective against new defenses." The first attack came just before dawn. Shadow Walker advance parties approached the outer settlements, their angular vehicles emitting a low-frequency hum that caused nearby crystals to vibrate discordantly. Where they passed, the natural crystalline structures of Nexoria seemed to dim, their inner light suppressed by the disruption fields. Maya positioned herself with a group of the strongest clan members on a ridge overlooking the narrowest approach to the central spire. The crushing gravity of Nexoria still pulled at her, but after nearly 2 days on the planet, her body had begun to adapt, her genetically enhanced muscles and skeleton finding new equilibrium. "Remember," she told her team, "aim for the emitters on top of their vehicles. Those are generating the disruption fields." The Shadow Walkers came into view, bipedal creatures encased in dark metallic exosuits that concealed their true forms. They moved with unnatural precision, their suits apparently compensating for Nexoria's gravity, just as Maya's training and modifications helped her. Maya waited until the first vehicle was directly beneath their position before giving the signal. As one, her team launched their meteor stones from the crude catapults they'd constructed. The dense, non-resonant stones were unaffected by the disruption fields, crashing through the protective shields of the lead vehicle with devastating force. The vehicle sputtered, its disruption field flickering and dying. Immediately, several clan members used their natural crystal weapons, which suddenly functioned again in the absence of the disruption field. Crystal spears and arrows rained down, their resonance patterns amplified by proximity to the central spire, piercing the vehicle's armor. "It works," Silandrix called, their skin pulsing with patterns of excitement. The other teams report similar success. But the Shadow Walkers adapted quickly. The remaining vehicles spread out, making themselves harder targets for the meteor stone catapults. Several deployed smaller units, Shadow Walkers on foot, each generating their own personal disruption field. "They're trying to flank us," Maya observed. "Silandrix, can your people generate a controlled resonance explosion?" The alien's colors shifted to uncertainty, similar to what happens in the resonance fields. "Yes, but it would damage our own structures as well." "Not if we direct it precisely," Maya countered. "Look at their formation. They're avoiding that crystal outcropping because they know it could explode if resonated too strongly. What if we triggered it deliberately?" Understanding dawned in Silandrix's 3 eyes. A trap. The Shadow Walkers continued their advance, apparently oblivious to the Crystal Spire clan members who had repositioned themselves around the large outcropping. At Maya's signal, several aliens placed resonance amplifiers, small crystal shards tuned to specific frequencies, around the base of the formation. When the Shadow Walker forces reached the optimal position, Helder Tyvix himself activated the amplifiers. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The crystal outcropping began to vibrate, the resonance building rapidly beyond natural levels. The Shadow Walkers detected the danger too late, their vehicles attempting to reverse course but hampered by the rough terrain. The explosion sent crystal shards flying in all directions. Most of the clan members had taken cover, but Maya, protected only by a makeshift shield, was caught by the edge of the blast. A crystal shard sliced across her arm, drawing blood. The pain was intense, but she pushed it aside, focusing on the results of their trap. 3 Shadow Walker vehicles lay destroyed, their disruption fields silenced. But more were coming, learning from the failures of the advance guard. The battle continued throughout the day, a deadly game of adaptation and counter-adaptation. Maya's tactics worked initially, but the Shadow Walkers began targeting her non-crystalline weapons specifically, recognizing the threat they posed. By mid-afternoon, the defenders had been pushed back to the inner settlements. Maya's strength was flagging, the constant struggle against Nexoria's gravity taking its toll despite her enhancements. A cut on her forehead dripped blood into her eyes, and her right arm hung partially useless, where a Shadow Walker's energy weapon had struck her. "We can't hold much longer," Silandrix admitted, their own form showing signs of fatigue, colors dimmed and movement slower. "There are too many." Maya scanned the battlefield, looking for any advantage they hadn't exploited. Her eyes fell on the central spire itself, towering above them, its crystalline structure capturing and redirecting light in complex patterns. "The spire," she said suddenly. "It's one giant resonator, isn't it?" Elder Tyvix, who had joined them at the front lines despite his age, nodded solemnly. "The heart of our civilization. It channels the natural resonance of Nexoria itself." Maya's mind raced. Could it be tuned to counter their disruption fields? Not just locally, but across the entire settlement. The Elder's skin patterned with doubt. Theoretically, yes, but the precision required. No one has ever attempted such a thing. The resonance could tear apart everything if miscalibrated. "Let me try," Maya insisted. "On Earth, I specialized in harmonic wave physics before joining the Alliance. This isn't so different from the work I did calibrating shield harmonics on starships." After a moment's hesitation, Elder Tyvix nodded. "We have few options left. Silendrix, take her to the spire's heart." The heart of the central spire was a chamber unlike anything Maya had ever seen. A perfect spherical space in the center of the massive crystal structure, where faceted surfaces reflected and refracted light in dizzying patterns. In the center floated a cluster of smaller crystals, rotating slowly around each other without any visible support. "The resonance core," Silendrix explained. "It responds to thought patterns of our kind, allowing us to shape the resonance fields." Maya approached cautiously. "Will it respond to me?" "Unknown," Silendrix admitted. "No outsider has ever tried." Maya reached out, her fingers hovering just above the floating crystals. "Guide me," she said to Silendrix. "Show me how to connect with it." The alien placed one of their 4 hands on Maya's shoulder, another gently guiding her hand closer to the core. "Clear your mind of everything but the resonance. Feel the vibrations, the pattern underlying all matter on Nexoria." Maya closed her eyes, focusing her awareness on the subtle vibrations she'd felt since landing on this world. The constant hum that permeated everything from the vegetation to the crystals to the very air itself. Gradually, she began to sense patterns within that hum, mathematical relationships between frequencies that reminded her of the harmonic equations she'd worked with in quantum shield design. When her fingers finally touched the resonance core, the connection was immediate and overwhelming. Information flooded her consciousness, not in words or images, but in pure harmonic relationships, the language of vibration itself. She understood instantly why the Shadow Walkers coveted this power. The crystal could amplify energy in ways that defied conventional physics. Working with instinct and scientific training, Maya began to adjust the harmonics, seeking the counter-frequency to the Shadow Walkers' disruption fields. It was delicate work. Push too far in one direction, and the resonance would shatter every crystal in the settlement. Too far in another, and it would collapse into uselessness. Outside, the battle raged closer to the central spire. The Shadow Walkers had broken through the outer defenses and were advancing on the central structure itself. Silendrix watched Maya anxiously, their skin pulsing with patterns of hope and fear. "They're almost here," the alien warned. "Whatever you're doing." "Almost got it," Maya murmured, her consciousness half in the physical world, half immersed in the pure mathematics of resonance. She found the pattern, the exact counterharmonic that would neutralize the disruption fields without damaging the crystal structures of the settlement. With a final adjustment, she locked the resonance core into the new frequency and stepped back. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a pulse of energy radiated outward from the central spire, a visible wave of light that washed over the entire settlement. Outside, the effect was dramatic and immediate. Every Shadow Walker disruption field flickered and died simultaneously. Their vehicles stalled, exosuits locked up as the counter-resonance interfered with their power systems. Suddenly vulnerable, the invaders found themselves facing the full might of the Crystal Spire clan, whose weapons now functioned at peak efficiency, amplified by the central spire itself. The battle turned quickly. Without their technological advantages, the Shadow Walkers were ill-equipped to face natives evolved for Nexoria's crushing gravity. Within hours, the invaders were in full retreat, abandoning disabled vehicles and equipment as they fled. In the heart of the central spire, Maya collapsed to her knees, finally surrendering to exhaustion and the relentless pull of Nexuria's gravity. Silandrix caught her before she could hit the ground. "You did it," the alien said, their skin glowing with patterns Maya now recognized as joy and gratitude. "You saved the spire." Maya managed a tired smile. Not bad for someone with fragile bones. Silandrix's skin rippled with what Maya had learned was laughter. "I may have been mistaken about your species." 3 days later, Maya stood at the edge of the settlement, watching as an Earth Alliance rescue ship descended through Nexuria's atmosphere, its advanced shields handling the entry stress far better than her escape pod had. Beside her stood Silandrix, Elder Tyvix, and a crowd of other clan members who had come to see off the human who had helped save their civilization. The Alliance has agreed to recognize Nexuria as a sovereign world and offer protection against further Shadow Walker incursions, Maya told them, in exchange for limited cultural exchange and scientific cooperation. Elder Tyvix's skin patterns showed satisfaction. "A fair arrangement. And what of you, Maya Chen of Earth? Will you return to us someday?" Maya looked up at the massive central spire, glittering in the morning light of the twin suns. Despite the crushing gravity, despite the constant physical strain of existing on this world, she had found something here, a connection, a purpose that had been missing since she'd left Earth. "Wild Nex crystal tigers couldn't keep me away," she replied with a smile. "I think Nexuria has more to teach me." Silandrix approached, holding out a small crystal that pulsed with an inner light. "A resonance key," the alien explained. "It will help your body adjust to our gravity more easily when you return." Maya accepted the gift, feeling the subtle vibration against her palm. "Thank you for everything." As she boarded the rescue ship, carrying the resonance key and data that would revolutionize Earth Alliance's understanding of harmonic physics, Maya looked back at the alien who had once mocked her fragile bones. Silandrix raised all 4 arms in the clan's formal salute, skin glowing with farewell patterns. The ship lifted off, fighting against Nexuria's powerful gravity until it broke free into the upper atmosphere. Maya watched through the viewport as the central spire receded, already planning her return. Sometimes, she reflected, true strength wasn't about withstanding pressure. It was about adapting to it, transforming it, using it to become something greater than you were before. And in that, perhaps humans and the crystal people of Nexuria weren't so different after all.